I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair.
And I'll tell you point blank, I have not 1 ounce of remorse for Tracy Ann's death.
This is Jeremy Christian, who faced arrest for the tragic killing of 2 individuals aboard a Max light rail train in Portland, Oregon in May 2017. Christian committed the heinous act by stabbing and claiming the lives of Ricky John Best, a 53-year-old retired Army officer, and Taliesin Namkai Meshe, a 23-year-old. Additionally, he targeted Micah Fletcher, a 21-year-old, with a stabbing, but fortunately, Fletcher survived. The pivotal moment occurred when Christian was captured on tape, unleashing a barrage of anti-Muslim and racist slurs towards 2 black teenagers. His abhorrent behavior prompted several passengers to intervene, protecting the frightened teenagers by confronting and isolating Christian at the rear of the train. Further efforts to defuse the tense situation proved futile as Christian resorted to wielding a knife, issuing threats, and ultimately carrying out the stabbing. However, the story doesn't conclude there. Following his brief episode of madness lasting only 12 seconds, Christian swiftly exited the scene, fleeing the train at the subsequent transit center. Several alert passengers trailed him while contacting emergency services. Eventually, the police arrived, apprehended him, and he was taken into custody. Shockingly, Christian exhibited a sense of pride, boasting about his heinous act of killing 2 individuals, yet his atrocities didn't stop there. The courtroom proceedings left the judge and jury astounded. Facing charges of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, Christian displayed an utter lack of remorse for his actions. In fact, he even threatened to harm a relative of one of the victims during the trial. As one of the victim's family members presented a heartfelt impact statement, Christian responded in a manner that defied belief. Following the trial, Christian faced the consequences of his actions as he was handed down consecutive life sentences. As the proceedings unfolded, evidence of his previous criminal activities emerged, shedding light on his troubled past. It was revealed that Christian had previously assaulted a woman and had been heard shouting racial slurs on another train just a day before the tragic murders took place.
Oh, looks like we got a Christian or Muslim bus driver. I'll stab you too.
Christian, a self-proclaimed white nationalist and far-right extremist, received additional sentencing from the judge. In light of these other charges, 25 years were added to his 2 life sentences. Despite Christian's undeniable disrespect, it pales in comparison to the egregious behavior exhibited by Randall Moore.
And I'll tell you point blank, I have not 1 ounce of remorse for Tracy Ann's death.
We find ourselves in the Polk County courtroom, where Randall Moore stands trial for the heinous murder of his ex-wife, Therese, and Marie Lynch in November 2011. Moore's actions unfolded as he abducted, sexually assaulted, and ultimately took the life of Lynch. The chain of events commenced when Lynch decided to end her relationship with Moore and sought legal protection through a restraining order. However, Moore, unwilling to let go, resorted to kidnapping Lynch, creating a harrowing hostage situation. In the midst of this ordeal, Officer Todd Rowland responded to the distress calls emanating from the apartment. Tragically, Moore shot Officer Rowland, but thankfully, he survived the incident. In a chilling phone call to emergency services, Moore provided a motive behind the murder of his wife.
You want me to tell you something?
Well, you can tell me whatever you want.
I didn't want to do any of this.
Okay.
But I'm telling you, all I wanted was my son. I just wanted to see my 7-month-old baby. That's all I cared about.
After an intense operation, law enforcement successfully breached the residence and apprehended Moore. As Judge Joel Novak announced the verdict, Moore acknowledged his guilt by nodding in agreement, having been found guilty on all charges.
The court doesn't allow me to punish you any more than I'm doing now. If I could, I would.
Following the judge's approval, the victim's family was granted the opportunity to deliver their impactful statements. However, what unfolded next within the courtroom is regarded as one of the most flagrant displays of disrespect ever witnessed in a legal setting. As Lynch's mother bravely approached the stand to deliver her heart-wrenching statement, Moore shamelessly interjected, interrupting the solemn moment. His disruptive words can be heard as he rudely interrupts Lynch's mother during her victim impact statement.
He hated you. You're a loser.
However, Moore's audacity didn't end there. Despite his reprehensible actions, he was given the opportunity to address the court. Shockingly, he displayed no remorse whatsoever for the heinous crimes he had committed.
And I'll tell you point blank, I have not 1 ounce of remorse for Tresian's death.
During the proceedings, Moore not only failed to express remorse, but he also attempted to justify his abhorrent crimes. The only instance that remotely resembled an apology was directed towards Officer Todd, the individual whom he had shot.
Okay, 303 Adams been hit, officer down.
However, Judge Novak had the final say, and he strongly condemned Moore for his despicable conduct. The judge berated Moore for his wicked behavior and expressed profound shock and disbelief at the level of heartlessness demonstrated throughout the proceedings.
The court doesn't allow me to punish you any more than I'm doing now. If I could, I would.
Ultimately, Moore received a sentence of 3 life terms for the murder of Lynch, along with an additional 25 years for shooting Officer Rowling. While this entails spending numerous years behind bars, it still pales in comparison to the severity of life sentences without the possibility of parole. This was precisely the outcome in the case of Camilla Gamet. Introducing Camilla Gamet, a 31-year-old individual currently facing trial for the murder of her boyfriend, Marcel Hill, age 38. The couple resided together in Michigan, and in May 2018, an incident occurred that resulted in Gamet violently assaulting her boyfriend in a fit of rage. During the altercation, she wreaked havoc throughout the entire apartment, utilizing various objects as weapons. According to court testimonies, the police were summoned by concerned neighbors, and upon their arrival, they discovered Hill lifeless, while Gamet was found drenched in blood. Among the evidence collected at the scene were a blood-stained frying pan, a knife with traces of blood, and a shattered floor lamp. Prosecutors alleged that Gamet repeatedly stabbed her boyfriend with the knife, leading to his tragic demise.
We have no choice but to send her where she will also die.
However, Gamet's actions didn't conclude there. The courtroom witnessed her startling defense during the trial. She asserted that she believed her boyfriend was an assailant or intruder, leading her to stab him in self-defense. Yet, the defendant's narrative failed to withstand scrutiny, as she should have recognized her own boyfriend or his voice. Gamet's account of the events could have potentially convinced the judge if Hill had sustained only 1 or 2 stab wounds. However, the evidence presented during the trial revealed a much more disturbing reality. It was revealed that Gamet had inflicted a total of 12 stab wounds upon Hill and relentlessly attacked him with a frying pan. Such evidence deeply undermined her self-defense claim.
You stab, you stab, you stab, you stab, you stab until he was dead.
Despite the overwhelming evidence against her, Gamet remained unwavering in her claim of self-defense. She maintained that she was the victim of lies and continued to stand by her story throughout the trial.
Basically, at trial, the way I was portrayed, mostly everything was lies. There was a little bit of truth, but mostly I was convicted off of lies.
Judge John McBain was unswayed by Gamet's claims, recognizing their lack of credibility. During the court proceedings, Diana Banks, a family member of Hill, was called upon to deliver a victim impact statement. However, Gamet's appalling behavior reached new heights when Hill's own mother took the stand to read the statement. Gamet's demeanor sent chills down the spine of those present, as she displayed a complete absence of remorse. She rolled her eyes and even smiled as Hill's aunt concluded reading the statement. This callous reaction did not go unnoticed by Judge McBain, who sternly warned Gamet and threatened to take measures, such as taping her mouth shut due to her persistent interruptions and disrespectful behavior towards the woman speaking.
You're gonna shut your mouth or I'm gonna have some duct tape put on it.
Well, he attacked
All right, we'll wait here for a moment till we can get her quiet.
Despite the threat made by Judge McBain, Gamet's disruptive behavior persisted. However, due to the unavailability of duct tape, court officers were unable to carry out the proposed action, allowing Aunt Diana to complete her statement. Nonetheless, Gamut's behavior had already infuriated the prosecutor. Prior to delivering the sentence, Judge McBain took the opportunity to express his personal thoughts regarding Gamut and the heinous crime she had committed.
I agree with the family. I hope you die in prison as well. You know, and if this was a death penalty state, you'd be getting the chair.
Taking into account Gamut's history of domestic abuse, the court handed down a severe punishment: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Unfortunately, the disrespect continued to unfold during subsequent events. Similarly, in the case of Keith Allen Ferguson, another individual receiving a similar sentence, the level of disrespect escalated. Introducing Keith Ellen Ferguson, a 40-year-old individual accused of a heinous crime. In November 2014, Ferguson, hailing from Kalkaska County, Michigan, allegedly committed a series of acts that resulted in the deaths of his wife, Tiffany Ferguson, and her father, James Weber. The charges against Ferguson encompassed 12 felony counts, including first- and second-degree murder, as well as kidnapping. The disturbing chain of events unfolded when 42-year-old Tiffany Ferguson sought to end her 17-year marriage with Keith Ferguson. During an argument centered around their impending divorce, Ferguson physically assaulted Tiffany and ultimately shot and killed her, all while their 4 children looked on, seemingly unaffected. Following this horrific act, Ferguson proceeded to drive the children to Tiffany's parents' house. Once there, he fatally shot Tiffany's father, adding another tragic loss to the ordeal. In a further display of violence and aggression, Ferguson sought refuge in a nearby residence, taking a 59-year-old woman hostage and barricading himself inside. This tense situation persisted for a grueling 7 hours before Ferguson eventually surrendered and released the hostage. During his court appearances, Ferguson exhibited a complete absence of remorse for his actions. Rather than displaying any sense of concern or engagement, he appeared bored by the entire court process. He frequently directed profanities towards the judge, court officials, and anyone present, displaying a blatant disregard for the gravity of the situation.
Understand me? I'm not doing this for these stupid cameras, these inbreds.
Prior to the judge pronouncing the sentence, Tiffany's best friend, Carla Seating, stepped forward to deliver a powerful victim impact statement. She expressed how Tiffany had lived in constant fear of Keith and acknowledged that she had been aware of Keith's troubling behavior. During the statement, Keith revealed his complete lack of desire to see or have any communication with his own children ever again.
All right? Because of the respect and safety of my children, I'm not saying nothing because they're going to see this. They don't need to hear that.
Judge George Mertz, taken aback by Keith's revelation, expressed concerns about his mental state. As part of a plea deal, Keith ultimately pleaded guilty to the murders of his wife and father-in-law, leading to the dismissal of the remaining 10 charges. In light of his grave crimes, Keith received a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.
I'll see y'all in hell.
Introducing one of the most malicious cases to date, Ronnie O'Neill III. Present before the court is Ronnie O'Neill III, a 29-year-old individual facing charges for the tragic double murder of his 9-year-old daughter, Ron Neve O'Neill, and his 33-year-old girlfriend, Kenyatta Barron, in Riverview, Florida. The devastating incident occurred on the evening of March 18, 2018, when Ronnie fatally shot Barron and mercilessly attacked his own daughter with an axe, inflicting fatal injuries that took her life away.
Stumbling outside, and then I just saw my dad chase him, hit the with an axe. And then he went in the garage, I followed him. He put me on the ground, and then he had his foot on top. I was laying on my stomach, he had his foot on top of me.
On the night of the murder, a harrowing incident unfolded as Ronnie O'Neill IV, his 8-year-old son, was stabbed by Ronnie O'Neill III, critically injuring him. During the same night, Kenyatta Barron made a frantic 911 call, screaming for help before abruptly hanging up. Less than 10 minutes later, Ronnie himself called 911, claiming to be under attack by white demons and accusing Barron of attempting to kill him. He provided his home address during the call, but Ronnie's actions didn't stop there. Believing that everyone inside the house was deceased, Ronnie proceeded to pour gasoline inside and set the house ablaze. Fortunately, his son managed to escape the inferno, albeit with burns and stab wounds. Detective Mike Blair attended to the injured boy, ensuring he received immediate medical attention. Thankfully, the young survivor managed to pull through. After setting the house on fire, Ronnie fled the scene. However, law enforcement was able to apprehend him, leading to his arrest. If one would expect Ronnie to exhibit some semblance of remorse or attempt to present a more agreeable demeanor in front of the judge and jury, who held his fate in their hands, they would be gravely mistaken. Ronnie's trial commenced in 2021, during which he insisted on representing himself, having been deemed psychologically fit to act as his own attorney. What transpired next is difficult to hear. Ronnie, without hesitation, cross-examined his own son, who had miraculously recovered from the stab wounds and burns inflicted by his own father. The young boy, now testifying as a witness for the prosecution, was subjected to the ordeal of being questioned by the very person responsible for his suffering.
I hurt you that night of this incident?
Yes.
I did. And how did I hurt you?
You stabbed me.
During the court proceedings, Ronnie's son bravely shared the details surrounding the tragic night of the incident. However, Ronnie vehemently disputed his son's account, claiming that the events were misrepresented. He went as far as alleging that the recording submitted by the prosecution as evidence had been tampered with. Initially, Ronnie asserted that he had acted in self-defense and filed motions to support his claims. Nevertheless, the judge rejected these arguments. Ultimately, Ronnie was found guilty of 7 charges, which included 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated child abuse, and 1 count of attempted first-degree murder. However, even after the verdict was delivered, Ronnie couldn't find solace. Following his sentencing, he shockingly admitted that he harbored no remorse for the heinous crimes he had committed.
I'm not sorry for something I didn't do, and I'm not sorry for the thing I did do.
Before Ronnie's sentencing, Judge Michelle Sisko, an experienced judge with nearly 20 years of service in the judicial sector, addressed the court with the following statement.
This is the worst case I've ever seen as far as the facts.
Ronnie received a sentence of 3 life imprisonments without the possibility of parole. If you believe the previous cases were marked by disrespect, brace yourself for this one.
I was crying, Daddy, Daddy. When I woke up, the whole house was in smoke.